Calculations are my second favorite feature, just behind scripts. And actually my favorite feature is a combination of a script and a calculation. But that's more complicated. We're just going to go into calculations right now. And the basic definition is a calculation allows you to manipulate the data in your solution. And the data usually means a field. You can take the contents of a field and manipulate it. You can do a lot of things with that. You can add stuff up. You can concatenate, as we've already seen. But the best description of a calculation is by examples. So let's go ahead and give you some examples. You could combine the first and last name into a single field. You're thinking, well, we did that with merge fields. Why do we need a calculation? Well, you can't put merge fields into a value list. Maybe you want a value list that shows the first and last name. And there are two places in the value list, but maybe you need a key field also. So there are a lot of places where you need to use a calculation where merge fields won't work. And so concatenating two text fields like a first and last name into a single field can be very useful. Very easy to do, but very powerful. Another example would be calculating the sales tax after adding up all the products you sold. You take the sales tax, you add up the products, and then you multiply the two. You could also determine the age of a person based on their date of birth and the current date. Or you could display an overdue message on an invoice as past due based on the current date and how many days is considered overdue. There's so many things that even these examples don't do calculations justice. There are tons of calculation functions. There are as many calculation functions as script steps. But don't worry, you'll use dozens of them, but only a fraction of them. So if there's 150 calculation functions, I've never counted them up, you might only use a quarter of them most of the time. So don't worry about it. We're going to go over which ones are the most important that you use most of the time. What's also important to know is when you use them. Where are they used? The calculation engine, that basic calculation engine, is used all over the place in FileMaker. We've seen it in a couple of places already. For instance, we saw it in an auto-enter calculation. We also saw it in a validation. We saw it in a calculation field as well, and we saw it in replace field contents. But a new FileMaker 11 feature uses filtered portals, and that uses a calculation. Scripts can have calculations, and just about every script step has the option for a calculation on it. Custom menus can be customized through calculations. That's a very cool technique. Security has something called record level access that allows you to attach a calculation to a record to determine whether you can edit it or not, or delete it or not. This is all done through the calculation engine. And then you have conditional formatting. We'll get into that as well, but that uses a calculation. Not always, but you can use a calculation. And there's tons of other places that we haven't mentioned where the calculation engine is used. So getting familiar with how calculations work can help you in all areas of FileMaker. Let's talk about the anatomy of a function. We've already covered this, but I want to review it. A function has a name, always, without a doubt. That function could be left, like we've used, or look up next. We've used that one as well. It could be something as simple as pi, and that will have no parameters. Pi just simply gives you 3.14, and it has nothing to do with parameters, but most functions will actually have parameters. Those parameters will be surrounded by parentheses. And if you have one parameter, well, then there'll be no semicolon and there'll be a parentheses right there. But if you have more than one, and you can have up to 5, then that will be separated by a semicolon. So there's a function name which tells it what to do, and a series of parameters which gives the details on what it should do. This often can be a field, or a text string, or a number, or it could be a reserved word. Just about anything can be a parameter which will tell that function what to do. And we'll find out all about that stuff. But you want to understand the basics of how a function works. In fact, you can even put another function inside of one of these parameters. You can nest functions many, many times. It's unlimited basically. So there's a lot you can do with the function. What we're going to do next is show you a basic calculation. Even though we've done a couple, I want to go ahead and show you another basic calculation to get you really situated with how they work.